Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're so glad you could join us today for our webinar on medical devices in the MEA region, what's new, what's next, and what you must know. I'm Gay Esler, the marketing manager at RegDesk. And for those unfamiliar with RegDesk, we're an AI-powered regulatory information management platform with built-in regulatory intelligence. Our platform allows RA teams to leverage AI so you can prepare, manage, and publish international submissions smarter and faster. If you or your team are interested in a demo and like to see RegDesk in action, we'd love to do that for you. So please reach out to me and I'll be happy to set something up. Also, we will share the slide deck and presentation after the webinar, so be on the lookout for that over the next few days. To focus on you for a minute, we just want to say we truly appreciate you joining us on our webinar. We love to provide these webinars and give you value, and we know you have a busy schedule, so we truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us today. The last 5 to 10 minutes of the webinar we'll set aside for Q&A. So if you have any questions while Bara is presenting, please just ask them in the chat or the Q&A section, and I'll be sure to go over those questions at the end. And if we have any that are unanswered, we'll add those when we send out the replay and slide deck to answer those for you as well. Now let me take a moment to introduce our esteemed expert. We're pleased to have the webinar presented today by Bara Nofal. She's the Regional Director of QA and Data and the lead for the Middle East and Africa region at RegDesk. Bara plays a critical role in ensuring the accuracy and integrity of regulatory data across the MEA region. With deep expertise in regional compliance landscapes, she tracks evolving regulatory frameworks, validates country-specific requirements, and supports strategic decision-making for medtech companies entering or operating in the MEA markets. Her insights today will provide valuable perspective on recent changes and what they mean for you and your compliance strategy. Thank you so much for joining us today, Bara. We're so excited to have you here. I'm going to turn it over to you for now.
Thank you. So hi, everyone. I'm happy to be with you this year to introduce a general overview about what has happened during last year till today. So last year we had a good webinar about overview of the regulation of some of the MENA region. Today we will discuss further also another Africa markets. So I'm sharing with you the presentation, but firstly, Gay, is it visible to you or to the audience?
Yes,
So
I can see it. And if you want to make it full screen, you can do that.
Yeah.
Yep, perfect. There you
Okay.
go.
Thank you. So I will start firstly with Bahrain. Today, I want to, before starting discussing the things about what I will discuss, we will not go deep details about how the thing is or the regulation. I will give you insights about critical things that changed from last year or a high level things. But for sure, if you need any question, you can contact us to find out that via our platform in the RegDesk. So in Bahrain, okay, sorry, list, the first thing I added in the list in the presentation is to add to you as for your reference. So after the presentation, you can, sorry, the webinar, you can have that presentation that include most of the major regulatory updates from July 2024 until July 2025. So you might not find all the updates that shared during that year, but I totally added the most important alerts or guidelines to be checked. So here in Bahrain, I will not read them, but I added the most important regulatory update that they published, that was for the registration guideline of the medical devices. So during 2024, they published two versions. They firstly published version 9, which is the updated version, was published during August, but then they added, I think they did editorial change or some non-major things. So we are now having the most up-to-date version as 9.1. And also the UFOC guideline is updated, is now the version 11.1. And I need just to highlight this guideline, sorry. This guideline, non-medical importation guideline, was part of the UFOC importation guideline, but they separated this non-medical importation to be as separate guidelines. So this was already mentioned in version 11, but now it is already added in version number 1. And also another circulars or MDR transition guideline. I will discuss it in the next slides. So if I will do a summary or the most important things that you need to be aware that it is changed now in Bahrain, that the standard track or the normal track for submitting for the medical device registration application, it is now updated to be 20 working days. It was in the past 40 working days. And for the fast track is now changed to be as a 10 working days instead of 20. And we need to highlight something here that for the fast track, you cannot do it from your own or via your authorized representative in Bahrain, because for sure you need to have to appoint a local authorized representative, but you need to do it through Nahra approved offices, and example of that ABC company. For the registration requirement, and this is not an update, but I felt that it is good to remind you about it, that the mandatory registration in Bahrain, it is now all the medium and high risk medical devices as class 2A, 2B, and 3 must be registered, whereas low risk devices registration for low risk home use devices is currently optional, but it will become mandatory starting from February 2026. So from that date, we will not have any optional registration. All type of devices, despite what is the type is, we need to register. So registration certificate validity, this is a great or a nice enhancement or update from the Nahra authority to the manufacturer. And I think this update is in regard because the authority is now, yes, almost having mandatory registration for all the devices. So they extended the validity of approving or the registration certificate from 1 year to 3 years, which is amazing update in Bahrain. For the product classification, Bahrain also, they are providing you a service that you, if you are in doubt what is the product fall under in which class, you can contact them and you can submit a request, and there is an application to fill. So they updated that form for the classification request. I already added that here, so you can find it easily. And for the MDD to MDR transition or IVDD to IVDR, Bahrain is one of the most countries that they are caring about this concept, and they, because the CE or declaration of conformity, sometimes they are part of the required documentation that might be required to be submitted in the applications. So they provided a new version during 2024, July to July 2025. There is two versions issued or published, but I attached to you here the most up-to-date version, which is version 3. So you can find, if you will check it, you can find it a case scenarios that Bahrain provided in the importation or in the renewal or in the registration itself, what you can do if you are a manufacturer having a CE certificate or declaration, let's say declaration of conformity, but issued as per the MDD, but you still not have the MDR, what to do. There is a set of documents. I cannot say it now, but you can check out the guideline. And if you need any help, for sure, RegDesk software or platform is here to help you. And in that guideline as well, they presented to us as a compliance deadline to which they can accept these scenarios for the risk as per the risk class for MD, IVD, etc. And for the OFOC, which is, when I mean OFOC, this is a platform that is regulating importation in Bahrain. So in the updates, I added just highlights for the updates and in that guideline. But maybe I can read the manufacturer registration letter. It was updated. The minimum validity requirement has been amended, now valid for a minimum of 1 year. Previously, it was 5 years. So must be issued by the physical manufacturer within past 5 years as a maximum. And for sure here, ISO certificate must also cover the invoiced site, because in the past it was not mentioned the ISO certificate that need to have the same manufacturer site as what is added in the invoice. So now it is a request that if you are submitting your invoice via importation, please, you need to make sure that the ISO that holding that manufacturer site also to be visible in the invoice for the devices that you are importing to Bahrain. So now we will go to Oman. Oman is now, there's an interesting update. And unfortunately, the updates that I will share with you, it is not officially stated in our regulatory guidelines, but there is a regulatory guidelines. I will support that. But here I also listed for you some major alerts or updates in Oman. We need to highlight. There might be another major updates, but these major updates I didn't mention because maybe they are before July 2024. So there's a lot of updates in Oman because they are now working a lot, updating their regulatory platform about having more regulatory for medical devices. So if I will start talking about the key insight into medical devices and IVD for the registration in Oman, the first thing that I will tell you that the registration process in Oman has officially commenced for Class D high-risk medical devices and IVD based on the risk classification used in the reference country. Two draft guidelines, we already have it in the past. Till today, they are not yet approved. I attached these draft for your reference because we contacted the authority and the authority confirmed that yes, the customer or sorry, the manufacturer can submit the registration requirements or the procedure or whatever mentioned for the Class D in these two drafts until it is approved, because not yet approved, but the requirement itself will not be changed, and the final version, it will be published soon. So we received a confirmation that we can use these two draft guidelines to register our Class D as a medical device or IVD, because currently it is mandatory to be registered in Oman. I added some notes that this, similar to what I said, actually, the first point about the draft. I will go to the second one. The authority confirmed to rely on the requirements. Yes, it is the same. And I need just to highlight something, that there's also in Oman, currently the authority website already updated, I think back from late 2024, early 2025, the authority of Sultanate Oman, Ministry of Health updated. So the whole structure of the this website was changed, and now it is enhanced in a way that having all the guidelines in one place, and they are providing you a user manual in addition to the registration requirement guidelines, etc. So I added for you a registration of medical devices user manual that you can as well rely on it if you are planning to register Class D medical devices in Oman. And here I mentioned that there's an update for or the structure of the Oman Ministry of Health. Summary of the registration process, if I'm talking about foreign manufacturers, the following slide, I added a table just for you to have a look about the process in a depth, but as a high level process that you need to, for sure, to appoint a local agent with approved wholesale activity, register the foreign manufacturer through this local agent. Manufacturer registration is required for now. It is mandatory for high-risk medical devices. As I already said to you that yes, for sure, you need to register Class D for MD and IVD. So the prior step to register medical device, that you need to register your manufacturer site, even if you are a foreign manufacturer. Submit the last step, sorry, it does need to be a 3. Submit the registration applications for high-risk medical devices and IVD. Here in that table format, that also the authority that they are currently using to just simplify the process of the registration as a step-by-step, that you need for sure initially to have initial approval of wholesale activity, and you can have the service link here. Then if you are a local medical device, for sure, you need to register your establishment license. Then if you are registered to register of medical device manufacturer and supplies. And here why we are telling supplies, because for sure, if you are for a manufacturer, you need to have a local, and you need as well to register your authorized representative or agent or whatever we can refer to it. Then to register of the medical device. And there is something about import of non-registered medical device. So if the registration of medical device is now mandatory for Class D, there is here also a note that for how you can import your devices with the risk class as low to moderate. And I need to highlight something. I'm not sure if I mentioned here, but the listing procedure, yeah, I already added. The listing procedure for medical devices is no longer applicable. It has been discontinued. This was confirmed from the authority because in the past, during 2024, it was required that before importing any medical devices in Oman, that you need to fill an Excel sheet as a listing your device in order to approve importing that device into Oman. But currently, this process is discontinued, so it is no longer valid because, as I already informed you here in the table, you need to follow these steps in order to reach out to the point that you are eligible to register your medical device or IVD in Oman. This is the full, sorry if I'm talking in a fast speed because I wanted to to how to say it, cover everything in a good way. Now we will talk about Botswana updates. Botswana is one of the interesting authority in Africa region, and they are now keep updating their regulations. So I'm assuming to see a lot of updates in the future. And as you can see, I already added to you guidelines that it is good to take a look about it. And you can see it is a registration for medical devices, IVD, etc. But I will just go to the slide that I'm providing you the most important thing to discuss, that the alert that was released back to March 19, 2025, that to describe the scenario, what's happening in Botswana, that currently there is no mandatory registration requirements for medical devices or even IVD. However, manufacturers must list their product and perform annual retention of these listed devices through Botswana Regulatory Information Management System. It is a portal that you need to submit or to list your product. And by the way, this portal, you will see a lot of things updated in it in the upcoming period of time, because through this portal as well, you need to register, you need to do adverse event, etc. So this portal is one of the most important portals in medical devices regulation in Botswana. So in regard to the alerts, what the announcement was about the voluntary registration for class A and B, it will be started from 1st of October 2025 this year. So mandatory registration will begin. So here we talked about voluntary, but when I'm talking about mandatory, Botswana are now, they are preparing a compliance deadline that for class B, the mandatory registration will be started from 1st of October 2026. And for class A from 1st of October 2026, and class C and D by 13 June 2026. To ensure that a product can continue to be legally marketed in Botswana, a retention application. When I'm saying retention application, I can, how to say it, do as a renewal, but it is not a renewal because you are renew the listing product that you are having. So a retention application must be submitted for all currently listed devices, included IVDs, by 13 September 2025. If you will look at that deadline, why this scenario? Because the retention is an annual thing that need to be renewed. So if you can see the deadlines for these mandatory registration, you can understand that they need the last listing or the last device that can be listed, or the renewal, or maybe, sorry, the listing is not yet, sorry, the listing for Botswana, it is not valid to now, or it is discontinued as well, as similar to what we said in Oman. But what there is something that for the retention of the application of already listed medical devices, they are still accepting to do the retention for the listed devices, because they don't want to, how to say it, to have a shortage of important devices in the market. So they provided this retention, final retention of the listed devices last by 13th of September, because from April 2026, they will start implementing the mandatory registration. So the purpose of that timeline, that just to have the important devices not to be sure, not to have a shortage and medical devices in the market of Botswana. I'm really sorry, maybe I confused you. So just a quick reminder, the listing of medical devices in Botswana is no longer applicable, because currently they are planning to have a mandatory registration next year. So what is the related for the listing is the retention of the already listed devices. So the retention is something that happened annually. So they are asking for our already registered, listed medical devices to do the retention by max by 13 September 25, because during 2026, the mandatory registration will be started. So the retention validity period is 1 year. So this is the same as what I said, no need to read it again. The last point I added, currently import permits are issued through this portal that I mentioned above for listed products, allowing their importation. In some cases, certain products may be exempted from listing and can be imported directly with a prior listing. And you can find the exemption from above if you can review the guidelines and if you need to contact us for have better information. For Saudi Arabia updates, actually, I added for you as a couple of updates. I will not talk deep in Saudi Arabia because if you need to understand further what is the update from previous version to next version, Saudi Arabia, they are offering and the same guideline in the last page of that guideline, history from the previous version to the next version. But if I will say the most important or the major alerts that I can say that it's good they updated, if I will say that this is a product specific, if you are having contact lenses, they provided an updated version for the labeling for this kind of devices. Because we all know that contact lenses is covered under medical devices in Saudi Arabia. And they also provided an updated form and the product classification guideline in Saudi Arabia. This referred to all type of device, not all type of device, sorry, the products in general. So it can have medical devices, it can have drugs, it can have cosmetic, etc. So it is updated. I noticed in for the medical devices, there's no major, but it's good to see what the difference from the history. And for the transportation of the requirements, as a version 2 as well published. And for the licensing of medical devices as well, it is an important update that you need to look at it. And there's something here I added. If you need to know what is the national diagnostic reference levels for IVD, you can, sorry, not for IVD, so you can refer to it. For other section, maybe I need to discuss about the innovation medical devices, because most of the manufacturer who is having interest on that, I need to tell you that the authority already updated and the guideline is clear and having a lot of things that it is easy to understand and can help you to submit your device in a good manner. And the most important update in that guideline, there is an Annex C is update added, which having the roadmap. So it is giving also a better understanding what is the innovation medical devices roadmap in Saudi Arabia to be followed. And for ISO, this is a first version, and it is actually a good thing that a manufacturer can review it. This guidance can be used as a basis for certification for a quality management system. So if you need to have a quality management system and you need to say it how it is Saudi FDA requirements, so this is the right guidance to refer to it. And there is a note that the second draft version of the guidance for combination product classification were published on May 15, 2024. Actually, I added this because keep following up with the authority about this guideline because it is having a good update, but till now it is still draft. So I thought it is good for you to also have the draft version or to understand that there's a new draft that's still not implemented yet for combination product medical devices. And I already provided the link for you to access it. For the Jordan updates, there is a lot of updates happened. Part of them in regards to the analysis and how to conduct the analysis, because in Jordan, if you need to register a medical device, you need to, after submitting your file, the authority will decide if your device is required to be analyzed or not. And even after you register your product in the importation, they might request you as well for analysis for the importation purposes. So analysis not only required only for the registration, it might also required for the importation procedure. And I listed here for you as a reference alert that you can check it. It is great. And there's I provided here. I don't want to go through these alerts. You can check it, but I thought it might be a good or a nice to say about what is the medical device registration in a flow chart in a simple way how the Jordan FDA dealing with the product registration or device registration. And before reading this flow chart, just a reminder, medical devices registration in Jordan is not required for all risk class. So you might have a risk class as a class A, class 1 is not required to be registered, but there is a special scenario that these kind of risk class need require registration if they are having some materials that already mentioned in the guidelines. So you can refer, it is not an update, it is already the original guideline already mentioned a type of or material. If it is found in the device, then class A medical devices need to be registered. Maybe one of the materials I remember hyaluronic acid, or maybe if the device having an active ingredient. So in that scenario, the device, it requires, even if it is a class 1, it's required to be, or a dosage form or something like that, then it's required to be registered. But in general, class 1, it is not required to be registered in Jordan. But from class 2A, 2B, and 3, it is required a registration. And as a flow chart, as I can read it, you need firstly to appoint a local authorized representative to register your product in Jordan, then to appoint through the GFDA portal to have appointment via this or electronic portal. Then you need to pay the fees, which is 100 JD. Then you need for sure to submit the required documentation as a hard copies. Then you need to, we need here to ask ourselves, does the product require analysis or not? If it is not, for sure it is, if you submitted all the documentation in a good pace and everything done correctly. So the authority will issue the registration certificate within 45 days with validity up to 10 years. But if your device requiring registration, then there is something that you need to have, that the authority will provide you with a checklist that included what you need to provide for the analysis. And for sure, you will provide the documents in hard copy, and you will provide a sample from your device to be analyzed. So you will pay extra fees. In addition to the registration fees, you will pay analysis fees, which is stability study 100 JD and analysis 50 JD. Then analysis can take 2 to 4 months. Then you will ask yourself, then we will ask ourselves that, does the result of that analysis pass? So if it is yes, then we will receive an approval letter about analysis approval certificate issued. If this approval certificate issued, then for sure the next step that the authority will provide you the registration certification. In some cases, if the result is not past the criteria to continue, so in that scenario, the authority will giving you a second attempt that you can submit another samples to do the analysis. So another time you will ask. If it is passed, then analysis approval certificate will be provided. Then the registration certificate with validity 10 years, it will be provided. If not, for sure, you no analysis approval and no registration certification will be issued. It will be rejected. And just I added here for you in Jordan, they didn't mention exact time, but the authority, based on the actual experience with the GFDA, unfortunately, registering a medical devices or IVD in Jordan, it might take up to 10 months. So it is not a fixed timeline, but sometimes if you having even if you are having your product or document as needed, it might take due to a lot of other applicants already submitted before you, and the evaluation process, it might take time. Hopefully in the near future, the timeline to have approval, it be less than 10 months, but currently, as confirmed from GFDA, it is around 10 months. And I need just to add some note for Jordan FDA, which is a great insight, and it is not mentioned in any regulatory guidelines. And it was confirmed from the GFDA that the IVD, it is not all type of IVD required registration. In Jordan, in GFDA requires that only in vitro fertilization products be registered as IVD in Jordan. Other types of IVD devices do not require registration. They only require an import permit. Other case scenarios, diabetes tests, strips are not registered under IVD category, but are registered as part of the diabetes medical devices application. So for more details, you can have it for under the regulation of class 2B. If you will open the medical devices registration guideline in Jordan, you can notice the class B requirement, you can refer to it. So it might be a grouping as a part of the device, but diabetes test strip, it cannot be registered as a part as an IVD application. The manager of Jordan Food and Drug Administration Medical Devices and Supplies Department has confirmed the above information, as I told you. Another note, the GFDA is currently in the process of updating its medical device guidelines or registration guideline. A clearer and more refined version is expected by the end of this year. Additionally, they have announced plans to launch an electronic portal for application submission, replacing the current paper-based process, which is a great initiative from GFDA. The expectation, it might be by November 2025. I hope that can happen. So if once this applicable, so the submission, it will not be via paper or hard copies, it will be through an electronic portal. And the GFDA as well confirmed that this process, it will be for sure help in minimizing the timeline till when the approval can be provided to the customers or the manufacturer, sorry. Now I will start talking a brief about Iraq, but before talking about Iraq, I need you to understand something in Iraq, that we are having two entity or two agency. If you are planning to register or import your product into Iraq, Baghdad, then you will need to follow the Ministry of Health Authority. Whereas if you need to register or import your device into Kurdistan, then you need to follow Kurdistan Medical Control Agency as the name of this agency above. I added the list as alerts as what I already told you about the previous country. You can refer to it once you have this presentation. If I can give you a key insight about that, in Iraq, the authority responsible for regulating the importation of medical devices depends on the destination. For, as I said, for Baghdad and other central region, it is Iraq Ministry of Health. For Kurdistan region, it is Kurdistan Medical Control Agency, KMCA. So if I will discuss about major or the most important thing that happened during 2025 for Iraq, the Iraq Ministry of Health published a regulatory guidance I already attached to you, and it is already mentioned in the previous slides, that having outlining the documentation required for importing medical devices into Baghdad. I added a brief as a requirement. I will not read it now. For Kurdistan Medical Control Agency, the registration in Kurdistan is not yet mandatory for, or sorry, not that, sorry, I said something incorrect, so I will read it again. So the KMCA has issued an update regarding the importation of medical devices into the Kurdistan region, categorized by risk class. So for low risk devices, the class 1 and the class 2A, these will be processed through one auto approval method. And for the devices with dosage forms as class 2A, class 2B, and class 3, they are required a mandatory registration. And there's something, the important thing or the alert that I need to talk about it, that Kurdistan, Iraq, that they provide a product importation code. So during the importation, they are requiring to have the product importation code during the importation. So if your product is already registered, so it need to have a product importation code to be imported in Baghdad, in Kurdistan, Iraq. But if it is it is not registered, they can provide you the product importation code, but the previous via a new approval process. But the previous approval procedure will no longer be accepted. The product importation code procedure as to have all the devices to be registered will be the only valid method until after December 31, 2025. So after 31, 2025, all type of devices need to be registered in in Kurdistan, Iraq, and they need to have the product importation code in order to be imported. So they will not accept unregistered medical devices to be imported if it is not registered in Kurdistan. Tunisia update, I will just leave that for you after that presentation. There's a lot of great insights or updates in Tunisia as well. And I need to let you know that Tunisia authority is now active. So I'm also expecting that there's a lot of alerts or major regulatory updates. We can have it by the end of this year. But one of the things that they changed the address of the National Agency for Medicines and Health Product, and I added the new address for your reference. And also the technical importation in Tunisia, the process to register or to import is kind of complicated. We already discussed the procedure last year, so I will not go through it. Maybe just to tell you the high level information that I need just to tell you about it today. The technical control upon import, CTI, for medical devices in Tunisia, it is referred to the technical importation. So this procedure that whenever you need to import medical devices in Tunisia, you need to follow this process, and this process can have two steps. The first step is provisional removal authorization, ABE, required to clear goods from customs or the devices from customs. The next step is to authorize you to market these devices, which can refer to AMC, to grant if the product complies with the applicable requirement based on either a technical opinion or a laboratory analysis. In the importation, when I'm talking about technical control, sometimes the device, it required analysis and sometimes it's not. So if it is required analysis, then you need to go through a laboratory analysis, and there's a lot of documentation and things to discuss. But here just I want to let you know that this the higher level. So the key requirements, only the documents listed in the most recent checklist that already mentioned here, you can refer to it, and the pages already as a checklist here, the checklist of documents and technical for documentation or technical file for medical devices or etc. So only the documents listed in the most recent checklist are required for both ABE and AMC application to be finalized and to have our product already imported and marketed in the market in Tunisia. If the product and documentation remain unchanged, the technical and administrative file remains valid, but each new application still requires separate submission and payment. When approved, the same product may be authorized for 2 years, provided specific conditions are met. Special consideration in the new also alerts that released by Tunisia. In the past, back to 2023, there was also similar to what we discussed in Bahrain, there was an MDD to MDR transitional period. There was a circular announced. Now it was replaced with a new guidance already published from Tunisia. And in that scenario, the Tunisia authorities are applying transitional provisions as per Article 120 of EU regulation, as outlined in the latest technical file documentation guide. Existing registration documents remain valid unless changes and regulations are officially communicated. Why I added this statement? Because if I will back to the alerts, you can see in 2020, July 2024, there was an update of the registration guideline of medical devices in Tunisia. So currently the new technical or the new procedure in the importation having the same concept of the registration, because the registration in Tunisia is not to submit your product directly. You are decide to register, you can register. No, it is not as that. You need firstly to import your product, to have some 5, as I remember, 5 importations successfully without anything. Then you can have or maybe during 2 years having importation without any side effects, any notice that this device is not having a good impact in the market. So in that scenario, you can register your product to have the registration. So the mandatory step in Tunisia is to import, to follow the technical import procedure, not to register. But the process and the registration that it is now how to facilitate the importation, that it was telling you if your product was requiring to be analyzed, there's no need to submit as an import and to follow the process to analyze, to go through analysis and these kind of things. No, it's totally fine. You can just submit your registration application after you having the approval to do that, after having couples of importation successfully happened in Tunisia, but without analysis. Currently, the case in the new importation, there is a scenarios already mentioned. You can, I'm not able to discuss it in deep details today, but you can refer to the guideline of the technical file for medical devices, and you can notice that also there is a situation that if the device having required to be analyzed and successfully through 2 years, nothing happened, nothing as an adverse event or nothing raised about this device, you can do the next importation without analysis. So by common sense, this is similar to what the added value that giving to us if we need to register. So we are now waiting if the authority will provide any update for the registration guideline in Tunisia. So this is why I told you existing registration documents remain valid unless changes in the regulations are officially communicated. So here I added a streamlined AMC process pending the establishment of specific medical devices regulation and improvement of the technical importation timelines. Tunisia is implemented a simplified registration process for medical devices under CIT, which is the importation process under this system. So an AMC may be issued without requiring laboratory testing, significantly reducing processing time by up to 6 months. To qualify devices must have been on Tunisian market for at least 3 years. I'm sorry, I told you previously 2 years. It is the 3 years without any metrovigilance incidents, hold either a valid MDD certificate and the date of manufacturer or current approval from a recognized non-EU competent authority. By the way, this is in regards to the registration that I already told you. This is the current procedure, but we need to wait if the authority will provide us any updates in the future. Egypt updates, because the time I will not discuss the updates, but I will let you know that there is a lot of updates and interesting updates in Egypt, and I hope you will enjoy reading the links. But as a high level, that there was no advertisement and the promotion guideline for medical devices in the past. Currently, the authority already published a first draft. It is still not implemented. So we are having a draft version for the advertisement and promotion for medical devices in Egypt. As well, the IVD regulation registration, it was updated for a new version. The new version is now more clear. It's providing a better understanding how to register IVD in Egypt. As well, there's two last alerts important I love to say about it. There's announcement published 25 of June. It was talking about for the MDD and the MDR, and the authority, they are providing you information that if you are having MDR certificate and you need to submit ISO or GMP for the actual manufacturer, in that scenario, you need to submit the free cell certificate and CE. So you are not required to submit both GMP or ISO. You are optional to, if you are having the ISO, then you can submit the ISO, but with the ISO certificate, you need to submit the CE and the free cell certificate. If you are having the GMP, it's totally fine. You can submit the CE and the free cell certificate with the GMP. But what is the difference? If you are holding MDD certificate, in that scenario, the same, you can submit even for the actual manufacturer, the GMP or the ISO certificate, but you need to have the CE extension and self-declaration in order to prove that you are in the process to have the MDR certificate. And the last alert, it is important in Egypt, they are providing us a new electronic payment official website, and you can find this alert. And I think it is a great insight that the Egyptian Drug Authority has launched an online payment services via its official website to support a digital transformation. So this is a great insight from our initiative from the EDA agency in Egypt. For South Africa updates, similar to Egypt, I will go just to let you know that I already provided the most important alerts raised from South Africa. You can look at it. We are maybe having not much of time, so I just provide you a look. Maybe let me check what if I need to add value here. There's version 1. This is interesting because it is a recent update by 17th of July 2025. South Africa provided us a medical device establishment license renewal process, because as you know that currently the process to register medical device in South Africa is to have establishment license firstly, then you can register your product or to import your product. And South Africa as well, I'm expecting to have a lot of updates in the upcoming years. So if we are expecting from July 2025 to July 2026, what will happen? South Africa is one of the markets that we will see a lot of major updates in the regulation, and similarly to Botswana, I think, and other markets. And here, actually, because I know that less than 1 hour, it is not enough to share all the insight or all the updates. So I also added some other markets from the MEA region that you might be interested in, as Lebanon, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, United Arab Emirates, Yemen, Ethiopia, Turkey, and Morocco. So in here, I added most of the most important major alerts. And here you can see in Nigeria, we are having a great guidelines and a draft version. So we are expecting to have them implemented soon. So keep up to date with the draft, because you need to be aware of with any draft version if you need to prepare any new documents or any new requirements. So you can refer to the draft version from the link already added in that table. And for the Ivory Coast, they are still not regulated registration and medical devices, but they are having importation requirements, and they provide us a great update during April. So you can check it via the link. And for Lebanon, they already have also for the things related to the expiration of CE quality certificate. And if you are having there's a special procedure for IVD rapid test. United Arab Emirates, they are providing also 2 alerts good to be read. For Yemen, actually, I want to add it as another country to discuss, but because of time, but I can tell you that Yemen are doing a great work. They recently provide this guideline, is a huge guideline providing all the requirements for the registration of medical devices in Yemen, and covering also other area, not only registration. Currently, I'm talking registration in general, but as a life cycle for medical devices, you can also find that through that link. From what is updated from the previous version, actually, I didn't notice too much different things, but maybe the guideline is now being more clear, more easily to be read in a good way. And another additional updates from Yemen. From Ethiopia, there's also another alerts, but I can maybe talk about the GS1 standard for product traceability. This alert was important. It was released by 2nd of June. So the Ethiopian market or authority, they are looking after how they can have the UDI for medical devices as per the GS1. So it is good to following up on that matter in Ethiopia. For Turkey, actually, there's a lot of updates in Turkey. If I will list it, it is huge, but I added maybe the recent updates from Turkey. One of the updates is talking about guide on the implementation of medical devices advertising and promotion. And during 2024, this guideline updated twice. The first one, I think, as I remember, it was updated September 2024. Then it was updated final version as version 4, 31 December. And if you need to understand advertisement, you can refer to it. And as you already know, if you are following up with EU or you are having you are registering in any EU countries, you can understand that there's an article that already published during 2024 for liabilities of economic operators in case of interruption or stoppage or termination of the medical devices in the country. So this was already published by the EU, and Turkey is most probably, or not most probably, they are following EU MDR. So they provide us in that alert the forms or what you need to do in Turkey for this scenario. And product tracking system registration for updated in vitro diagnostic medical devices under IVDR. And this alert, if you will open it and you need to explore it, you can as well understand it is somehow talking about for devices from IVDDT that now up classified to IVDR, what you need to do through the product tracking system registration portal. For Morocco, there's 3 alerts here. And by the way, Morocco, there's a lot of other updates, but the most important note I wanted to share for Morocco that by early this year, February 2025, the Directorate of Medicine and Pharmacy, DMP, is officially replaced with another agency, naming as naming as Agency for Medicines and Healthy Product, AMMPS. The website I added for you, but I need to tell you that unfortunately, Morocco website, most probably it will not be working outside Morocco. So you might need to use VPN to access it. But as a general note for you, no need to be worried because most of the updates from this agency to the AMMBS agency, it's talking just replacing the header. Okay, they might provide a new update, but most of the updates, it might taking that, yeah, they replace the header of the previous agency with the new agency. But for sure, for Morocco as well, I'm expecting to have a lot of new updates in the future. So I'm sorry if I was fast. I hope I provided you all the information that you need. If you are having any question, feel free to ask.
Yes, thank you so much, Bara. That was such great information, and I know there was so much to cover, so I'm so appreciative that you put extra details in the presentation that we'll share with everybody later. So be on the lookout for that with the slide deck and the replay. So we do have a few questions. I'm going to go through those, and you may have covered some of them, so just let me know if you covered it already. And if we don't get to everything, we'll be sure to add them into the slide deck and presentation email that we send out so we make sure to cover everything. The first question is, could you please confirm if the registration enforcement date in Bahrain is still set for February 2026?
Yes, it is still no update yet.
Okay. And then will Bahrain also require UDI similar to the EU? And will they have a database or rely on Udamed?
Well, Bahrain also require UDI. Currently, no. It is no official guideline published from the Nahra authority. And I need to mention that Bahrain, they already have their own regulation. They are not following EU. If we are talking about MDR transition guideline, I refer to it because the authority, they are accepting sometimes if you are already register your product in one of the EU countries. So in that scenario, you can submit a supported documentation as a proof for your document, but they are not in any way they are following EU. They only following themselves. So UDI, once they are publishing a new guideline as a UDI, if you are following us, you can have received that alert ASAP. So, but for now, there's nothing.
Okay. And then in Bahrain, is the requirement for ISO 13485 invoiced site also required for accessories?
Actually, this note I'm not having now, but if you want, we can check it for you. But as far as I know, yes, because but my answer why I'm telling not official, because in the regulatory guideline and the authority didn't mention for the accessory, so they are giving us the information as a general. So if I will answer you, yes, also for the accessory, because it will be part of the device, and the authority always need to have full quality or to have a certificate of the ISO to have the safest devices to be used in Bahrain. So my answer is yes, but if you want to have more answer specific, we can check it for you and you can contact us later.
Okay, perfect. Yes, so you can reach out to me with that question if you need more details. So feel free to do that. And then the next question is, what is the kind of analysis performed by Jordan Authority? Can you please clarify what is evaluated?
Actually, what exactly they evaluated, they didn't mention because it is different from device to device. And no need to be worried because during the registration or even during the importation, before deciding that if your product is required to be analyzed or not, and I cannot decide if your product is need to be analyzed unless the authority can decide that. So they will provide you a checklist so that you can go through about this checklist. There's no official checklist, unfortunately, announced to tell you what is the area that they will be analyzed.
Okay. Then another question, I think somebody needs some clarification around. In Tunisia, is a valid EU NVD certificate not available anymore?
Can you please repeat it? The valid what?
Yeah, so in Tunisia, like they said, how can this be? In Tunisia, a valid EU NVD certificate is not available anymore. Is that accurate?
Actually, yeah, it is not. No, it is not valid because, or let me see the question from the chat to understand exactly to what they are referred to it. I'm
Yeah,
not saying.
you see it?
Yeah, I'm not saying Tunisia question, but I can answer you about it that Tunisia, they also having their own registration guideline and regulation. And as I told you that you need to follow the importation process. The importation process is somehow complicated, but once you have it in a place, you can do it in a easier way. And the Tunisian authority, they are trying so hard to let to easy the things for the manufacturer to register their product. So for the certificate that you are referring to it, I think it is not valid because you need to follow the importation requirement. Then if you are eligible to register, you can follow the registration. And as I told you, the registration is still not updated yet. I'm expecting that we will see a new update for the registration. But the primary thing in Tunisia is to follow the importation requirements. And if your product required to be registered, to be analyzed, you will do analysis.
Okay, perfect. And then could you clarify whether the registration license in Bahrain and Oman is issued to the authorized representative or agent or to the manufacturer?
It will hold for both because you need to have your local agent having the authority to work, how to say it, as an agent. So your agent will be in front of the authority for anything, but for sure it will be mentioned your name, the manufacturer name, and the authorized representative name.
Okay, and then for Iraq, I'm learning that we need to register the medical device itself, and there are two entities for two regions. Currently,
Exactly.
we are registering the manufacturer site with Kamadia, not registering the product. Can you clarify the obligation of registering the medical device in Iraq, Class 2B?
Okay, so I think I'm reading the question. So for your part one about that we need to register the medical itself, and there are two entities. Yes, yeah, it is correct. We are having two entities for Iraq, Baghdad. We are having Ministry of Health, Kurdistan, KMC. But yes, currently, sure, for sure, for to register any product for both entities, you need to register the manufacturer's site. So it is a required note, a required step for you to register. Then you can register your device. And what you currently we are registering the manufacturer site within Camedia, not registering the product. Can you clarify the obligation of registering the medical device in Iraq plus 2B? Okay, so actually the authority they are in the process to have implementing the registration required for class 2B. So if they are accepting for you to register the manufacturer site without registering the product, so this is maybe a case scenario, but currently they are taking advantage that no, they are in the process to have all devices to be registered. But as I mentioned in the slides, it is not yet all the devices mandatory to be registration. So they are still in the process for that. So yes, the current process that you need to register your manufacturing site and you can import your devices based on that manufacturer site registration. But still, this is in a process.
Okay, we still have a few more questions. We got lots of good questions today. So could you please let us know when the UAE EDE will be fully implemented, specifically when the registration guidelines will be issued? And then another question on that, will the classification procedure for professional use medical devices still remain in place? And if you want to see the questions some of these are in the chat too. So if you pull up the chat,
I
you can
think
see
there's
some of
a
the
network
additional
issue.
ones.
Hi, Gay. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear
Can you?
me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So there's some questions in the chat too. If you want to pull those up, if you want to see it, it might be easier for you to see some of these. Could you please let us know when the UAE EDE will be fully implemented,
Ah,
specifically when the registration guidelines will be issued? And will the classification procedure for professional use medical devices still remain in place?
yeah, so for the first question, still not announced. We all of us, we are waiting actually for that announcement. And I'm so excited once it will be implemented. For the question about will the classification procedure for professional use medical device still remain? Yes, it is still as per the guideline already published from the authority. There is no change. There is no announcement about that. I think I can read the remaining question.
Okay, perfect.
Additionally, could you provide an update on the GHC medical device registration? When can we expect the registration guidelines to be released. Unfortunately, I'm not having that information, but for sure, once we will have it, we will share it via RegDesk platform and LinkedIn or some these kind of important alerts. We always share it via our LinkedIn page. So you keep following us and you can receive the answer once it is published. And just Gay, I noticed something about there's no product registration in Iraq. Yeah, I know there is not implemented yet for all, how to say it, to register medical device. It is a manufacturer, but currently the regulation is updated. The authority, they are providing us, there is a requirement to register medical devices if I'm talking about Kurdistan. So it is in the process. It is not finalized yet. So currently they might take the registration of manufacturer. And Iraq market, sometimes it is the authority will giving us, unfortunately, biased information. They telling us to do that, and in the actual scenario, maybe it is changed. So in Iraq, the thing is still not stable. We are waiting the authority to provide a more clearer regulation. And the first step, it is started from providing us the importation requirements that were published in April, as I shared to you from Iraq, Baghdad, and as well the the BMI code, the importation code for Kurdistan. I think there's a last question regarding the question of the registration license holder in Bahrain and Oman. My specific inquiry is who is considered the legal owner of the license in license. In some countries, if the license is owned by the agent, the manufacturer must restart the registration process from beginning. No, actually, yeah, the in Oman, maybe I can talk about Oman. No, it is a process. So you need to have your agent as a wholesale activity to have that. In order your local agent are applicable to have it, then you need to register your manufacturer. So it is part of it. So it is not different. It is not that you need to do another registration for the manufacturer or something like that. And who owns the device? It will be the manufacturer, but the name of the authorized representative, it will be written in the communication, and he will be the person who will contact with the authority. So this is what I tried to tell you. But if you need, you can send us your case scenario, and for sure I will answer it in a better way for a better detail, because I think maybe I didn't provide you the answer that you wish. So for sure you can share your exact question with a case scenario, and we are happy to answer it via email.
Okay, and I think we had one more question, but we'll put that in the emails when we send everything out. So we don't want to go over your time. We want to respect that we're here from 11 to 12 and we're just a couple minutes over. So hopefully a lot of those questions got answered. We again appreciate you taking your time to be here. And Bara, thank you so much for all of your expertise and knowledge. You really seem to know this market well. So I know you provided so much value for everybody. So thanks again for being here and thanks for joining us. And we hope you'll join us for our continued webinars. We usually have one at the end of the month on a Wednesday. So be on the lookout for what we're going to be doing next month. Thanks again, everybody. Y'all have a great day. Bye.